Okay. All right, guys. So we're going to be making some tiny pies. I'm going to give you guys the information so that you can get the silicone mold that I'm using, which makes beautiful crust, okay? Now, usually most artists take the crust and they paint them. You don't have to take the crust and paint these because this crust is perfect, okay? So I'm going to give you guys the actual die that I use to make this crust so this whole process will be easy for you. Now, I do want to mention that I'm making these on YouTube, so all of the information will be found in my Patreon, and that's going to be linked to the description box. And if you don't see it in there, just go to Patreon, look up Diamond Shine, just look at Diamond Shine Soap, and you will find me. And these will be available on the $10 level. The wick size right here, I'll put that in the Patreon as well for you guys. Also, when it comes down to the color that we're going to be using, you got two different kinds of colors that you can use to make like that sweet potato color. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys the dye that I use for the crust, because you also can use that to make the sweet potato as well. Okay, so we're going to be making it pretty quick. This is very quick. You're going to need a box. I prefer to use a box. Now, when it comes down to box, guys, go on and do your research. Take your measurements on your pie, and then get you a box according to the size, okay? So I don't have a vendor for you guys to get your boxes. You're just going to have to go ahead and look for that on your own, but everything else I will provide, like the tins, the vendor for the molds and the color, the wax, and so on and so forth. All right, so now what I did was I pretty much did a blend of paraffin and soy. You want to make sure that you use a paraffin wax for this, because these will break, okay? They will break, and you don't want to have broken pies. So you want to make sure you do a blend of paraffin and soy, and I will leave that percentage inside of the Patreon as well, so you guys will know that. Let's go ahead and we're going to make some pies. Now, I already wicked these already, and of course, you guys know I use hot glue, so I just pretty much just took them and put the hot glue. So the next thing you'll have to do is you have to get you some wick trimmers or some scissors, and you just go around and just cut these. Do not throw this part away. Like, after you cut it, you're gonna have some leftover wick yarn, whatever. Yeah, so it's going to be leftover because you're going to cut it to like right here, okay? And so with that leftover, you want to make sure you just take that, because you can use a wick tab and you can re-tab this wick, and it's actually a way for you to save money. So I'm going to cut all of these off, and I'm going to like start weighing out my wax, because I'm going to start pouring these pies, okay? All right. We are finished. I'm finished with my my wax, pretty much like coloring it and everything like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pour it into my pie shells. Now, I thought that was really important to bring you guys along on this part of the journey, because the pie shells have to be poured in a certain way to get the top to stick to it, okay? So I'm going to show you guys what I mean. So of course, I'm gonna have to space them out just a little bit. Okay, so I'm gonna pour this one right here. And so when you pour it, you have to make sure you pour it all the way up to the top. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this on here. And it has to overflow so that that shell can stick. And you guys will see what I mean. See, I'm going to pour this. Okay, so now you see that the pie is actually touching the wax. The pie shell is actually touching the wax. And that's the way you want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and pour a little bit more. Now, if it starts overflowing outside of the actual tin, then it's different. But you want it to touch, because when it touch, it actually binds it together. Okay, so that's how you got to do it. And that's why I'm making a video, because this is something that you guys could have did on your own. But some people will have that question, like, how can I get my pie shell and my tin to stay together? Because if I make it, the pie shell is just going to fall off. And that's not true. Okay, that's not true at all. You just have to make sure it's together. And then you just kind of get your wick in the right place. Just kind of center your wick. Okay, Make sure it's nice and centered, because you're not going to be able to go back over there with the heat gun unless you do use like a lighter heat gun, because if it's too hot, like you see how that wax just ran off, I used too much. And so I'm just going to let it just run, because I could just take it and just scrape it back up, and it could become some of my pie shell on my next candle that I'm using. But just making sure that the wax is touching the shell. And so that's it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna keep doing these, and then you guys will see the finished final product.